The verdict is in. Breaking news, JW versus Norway. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Vern. I've been covering the Norway trial between JW and the state or the country of Norway. And now we went from the normal civil court, we now went to an appeals court. We still haven't hit the Supreme Court. And so there's lots of different courts that we go through on this level. So the verdict is in. I'm going to read the verdict right from Reddit. And this is thanks to Miss Usato for sharing this with us. Now, we'll read her, she gives her opinion here. Now here's this is the verdict from a professional journalist right here, Caroline Gilgy, journalist. And this is published March 14th, 2025, so it's brand new news. And the Jehovah's Witness won the appeal against the state. So let's just cover this. Jehovah's Witnesses have been denied state subsidies for the years 2021 to 2024, have also been denied registration of the religious community. Now the Borgarting Court of Appeal has ruled on whether the decisions are valid under the Religious Communities Act. And this was the outcome of the appeal case that took place in early February. The Court of Appeal, unlike the District Court, found that the decisions were invalid because the conditions for denial under the Religious Communities Act, Section 6, Section 4 were not met. The Borgarting Court of Appeal informed Vartland. Jehovah's Witness appealed after they lost the case for registration as a religious community in the Oslo District Court in March of last year. And the questions the Court of Appeal has decided are whether Jehovah's Witness' practice of breaking contact with those who leave the religious community is a violation of the requirement of free entry and exit, and whether it constitutes a violation of children's rights. The Court of Appeal writes that they did not find it probable that Jehovah's Witnesses' practice of social distancing towards baptized members who leave the religious community constituted a violation of members' rights to freely exit a religious community. Okay, so you notice there that the Jehovah's Witness practice of social distancing towards baptized members who leave, they didn't feel that there was any problem with the way they do it. Okay, so it was also not probable that Jehovah's Witness practice of social distancing toward minor baptized members who are excluded or leave the Jehovah's Witness, or the practice towards minor baptized preachers who commit norm violations, constituted psychological violence or negative control directed at children in a way that violates children's rights, the Court of Appeal informs Vartland. Now, this verdict is unanimous. We're happy with the fair decision of the Court of Appeal, which upholds the rights and restores the good reputation of thousands of Norwegian citizens who profess the faith of Jehovah's Witnesses, writes Jorgen Petersen. He's the spokesman for the Jehovah's Witnesses Information Department in Scandinavia, and that's what he tells the Vartland. So he believes the decision is in line with the decisions from the highest courts in other countries and from the European Court of Human Rights, and it represents a significant victory for all citizens in Norway by confirming the fundamental rights to freedom of religion and the freedom of expression, writes Jorgensen. He points out that Jehovah's Witnesses have a deep respect for the Norwegian state and writes that they will continue to exert a positive influence in society while respecting individuals' freedom of choice. We sincerely hope that this judgment will further strengthen Norway's reputation as a nation that embraces religious diversity and peaceful coexistence. Disappointed. Jan Frode Nilsen is a former member of the Jehovah's Witnesses and has testified for the state in court. He is disappointed with the verdict. He says, "I am critical of the verdict, but cannot go into detail without having read the reasoning. There's something about the sentence. It was not made probable either And if you cannot make Section 6 plausible for a religious community that has written instructions on exclusion, right? Then Section 6 of the Religious Communities Act is completely dead, he says. He further points out that the judges often have a different opinion of the case than those who have lived in the religious community. Well, that's obvious. If you haven't lived in a Jehovah's Witness community, you're going to have a different opinion. Now, law and religion are two worlds that collide, and therefore there can be differences in the understanding of how closed religious communities function, he says. Nilsson clarifies to Vartland that he has not yet read the reasoning of the Court of Appeal. I have always expected this case to go to Supreme Court, so he said that right at the beginning. And the difference is that they enter as winners, which I had hoped to avoid. We'll decide on appeal. This is the government, Liv Inger Gabrielson at the government attorney. They represented the state at the Ministry of Children and Family Affairs in court. She comments as follows. She says, the Court of Appeal shares the ministry's view that the practice of Jehovah's Witness toward children who violates the norms of the religious community and risk exclusion can be very unpleasant, humiliating, and demanding, among other things, because they can lose contact with family members and friends. Nevertheless, the court doubts that this is not psychological violence that violates children's rights, she writes to the Vartland. Will you appeal the verdict? She says the verdict is comprehensive and thorough, so it will take some time to consider a possible appeal to the Supreme Court, she answers. Okay, so that's the end of the article. Now we're going to go to Miss Usato, and she gives her opinion, and then after that I'll give you guys my opinion. Okay, so Jehovah's Witness versus Norway. The verdict is in. This is Miss Usato's opinion. She says the Norwegian Court of Appeal has ruled in favor of Jehovah's Witnesses, overturning the state's decision to deny them registration and subsidies. And for those who have fought to protect children and vulnerable members from the harmful aspects of this religious organization's policies, this ruling feels like a heavy blow. Despite the testimonies of former members who have lived through the emotional turmoil of being cut off from family and friends, the legal system determined that the threshold for intervention was not met. And for many who have worked tirelessly to bring awareness to psychological and social harm caused by Jehovah's Witness policies, this decision is deeply disappointing, and it may feel like a setback in the fight for accountability, justice, and protection of children's rights. This ruling does not erase the stories of those who have suffered. It does not make the pain of shunning any less real. It does not mean that the fight for recognition and reform is over, but it is a reminder that the work must continue. The legal system may not always provide the outcome we hope for. The public awareness, education, and advocacy can still make a difference. Former members, advocates, and allies must continue to share their experience and speak out and support those who are struggling. The possibility of an appeal to the Supreme Court remains, and with it, another opportunity for justice to be considered. To those affected by the decision, stay strong. This verdict does not define your truth, nor does it diminish the importance of your voice. The journey towards change is often long and fraught with obstacles, but it's a journey worth taking. Thank you to Jan Nilsson and Larchwood for helping explain and get the information out there during this. It isn't over, and if you'd like to read about the 2-week appeal, its explanation is in this article. Go on day 1 in related articles. So there's a link here. That link will take you to Avoid JW, and we covered this on previous videos. So that brings an end. I will give you guys all a link to this in the descriptions below. And now we'll get into what I think. So what do I think? Well, I think the truth has not come out. So what happens if you have enough high-end people lying in court, straight-faced lying, the truth doesn't come out in that particular court. But then you might ask, will the truth ever come out? Well, here's some famous quotes. Mark Twain, one of his famous quotes was, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember everything. So if you just tell the truth, if you're always just telling the truth, you don't have to remember all the lies, all the detail lies. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they have to remember all these lies that they've told in truth. We're going to look at a few lies. Now, does the truth eventually come out? While the truth has a tendency to surface over time, there can be situations where it remains hidden or obscured, and factors such as deceit, manipulation, or incomplete information can delay the truth from emerging. And that's what we see happening with all the court cases. Jehovah's Witnesses are using theocratic warfare. They've actually labeled it strategic theocratic warfare. We covered that in lots of videos. It's in their manuals or watchtowers, so they practice this. We see it happening. And for a lot of us that have been in there, we actually practiced theocratic warfare ourselves. We may have told non-truths or not put out the truth because we were in fear of harming the watchtower's name. So sometimes the truth may not come out, but eventually the truth will reveal itself through other means, through various means. So the truth always does come out. Truth is always strong, no matter how weak it looks. And a falsehood is always weak, no matter how strong it looks. So far they won with falsehoods on the appeal court. They got up, they consistently lied all the way through. Risdale, he's just a really class A liar. Now let's take a look at some other liars. We had problems up here in Canada with this guy, David Nam. David Nam, he was before the Supreme Court of Canada, and he was here. I'll just quote it here, and we're going to play the video too. So he told the Supreme Court in Canada, he says, with Mr. Wall was not sufficiently repentant. This was this 30-year-old Jehovah's Witness here in Canada. And he says Jehovah's Witnesses don't use the word shun or shunning. They refer to it as disfellowshipping, because that really gives a sense of what's taking place with this particular community. He says disfellowshipping literally means no further spiritual fellowship with the individual. And as I point out, he says the nature of the relationship, a disfellowship person is not completely shunned. So that's what he told our Supreme Court here in Canada. He says the disfellowshipped person is able to come into the congregation meetings, they're able to attend the Kingdom Hall, and they're able to sit wherever they like. They can sing in the songs with the congregation, and as far as their family members are concerned, he says normal family relations continue, with the exception of spiritual fellowship. And the door is not closed to Mr. Wall either. The person who is disfellowshipped can, and after a period of time, ask to be reinstated into the congregation, because that is the purpose of the discipline. So I'm going to ask you guys as the audience, most of you guys are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm shunned. I've been shunned here now for 12 years, since 2012 when I left. And then they made it official. And then they actually sent emails out and demonized me to some Indian bands up, indigenous bands up in the northern Canada where I was working, and completely wrecked my name up there. And that's what they do. And then when I tried to fight them through any written correspondence, they put on their written correspondence, cease and desist. So in other words, they don't want to fight. They don't want to talk about this. They just want to get away with it. They want to lie about it, and they want to use theocratic warfare. So I say it's not time to sit back. It's time to pick up and make our voices, let our voices be heard. We know that shunning is a problem. In fact, this year for our assembly, we put up this sign that we're going to be promoting, shunned but not forgotten, XJW friends. So shunning is a problem, still is a problem, but here's what they said. Here's what David Nam said in the Supreme Court in Canada.
Jehovah's Witnesses don't use the word shun or shunning. They refer to it as disfellowship, disfellowshipping, disfellowshipped, because that really gives the sense of what's taking place within this particular religious community. Disfellowship literally means no further spiritual fellowship with the individual. And as I point out, sorry, Chief Justice, as I point out at paragraph 22 of my factum, the nature of the relationship then of a disfellowship person is not completely shunned. The disfellowship person is able to come into the congregation, to the congregation meetings. They're able to attend in the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. They're able to sit wherever they like. They can sing the spiritual songs with the congregation. As far as their family members are concerned, normal family relations continue with the exception of spiritual fellowship. And the door's not closed to Mr. Well either. The person who is disfellowshipped can, after a period of time, ask to be reinstated in the congregation. Sorry, Chief Justice. As I point out at paragraph 22 of my factum, the nature of the relationship then of a disfellowshipped person is not completely shunned. The disfellowshipped person is able to come into the congregation, to the congregation meetings. They're able to attend in the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. They're able to sit wherever they like. They can sing the spiritual songs with the congregation. As far as their family members are concerned, normal family relations continue with the exception of spiritual fellowship.
Sorry, I played that twice. So here it is. I'm going to give you this link. This is the Canadian one. It shows all the videos, how to shun people from Jehovah's Witnesses. Shunning is a thing contrary to what David Nam from Jehovah's Witnesses said in the Supreme Court. So I'll give you this article if you're into legalities. Now another one is the Norway one is Care Aware. We just seen that one. And Care Soderhaugh is a member of the Board of Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. He's one of the highest members. And he was questioned on the last day of his group's appeal against their loss of state funding because of their harmful practices, particularly toward children. And when asked by the court if some persons may experience very detailed and unpleasant lines of questioning in their judicial committee meetings, so if you were in a judicial committee meeting, was there very pointed and embarrassing questions that put you on the spot? Keep in mind, most judicial meetings are because of fornication, adultery, or some sexual nature. So they like to get in and really dig this out. I've been involved in so many judicial committee meetings. Well, here's what the highest guy in Norway says. He claims he's not aware. He's not aware of any kind of really questioning. This guy, an elder, 19-year elder. So you tell me, folks, this organization is just built upon lies. Risdale, who is their lawyer, he got up in front of the court and he lied through his teeth. He's never been a Jehovah's Witness, but then we get the Jehovah's Witnesses, the highest in the land, lying. We get these Jehovah's Witnesses in the Supreme Court of Canada lying. Well, what is a court supposed to believe? Well, all I can say is the truth will eventually come out. And now with the internet and so much publicity, the truth will come out in various ways. And a lot of times, the court is giving them enough rope to hang themselves. So they got up in court, in the appeals court, lied through their teeth. They rammed the courtroom full of people, Jehovah's Witnesses, so no other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses had room to sit. Journalists didn't have room to sit. This was their tactic, theocratic warfare. This is all planned by Jorgen Peterson. You know, that's another story. Avoid JW has a lot of stories. We ran a lot of these stories on our channel. But when you get this happening in court, these worldly judges, they're clueless. Who do they believe? You know, so their appeal. And they in favor of the liars, you know, like Care Soderhaugh, David Nam, all these liars that come to these courts. Well, what's happening in Norway? This can be run to the Supreme Court. They may have given themselves enough rope to hang themselves on their lying, and the truth may yet prevail in Norway. So it's not over yet. The state said that they're going to look it over, and they may appeal this to the Supreme Court. So we'll see what happens. If you're in Norway, or if you can give the state some support as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, that these guys are just lying in court, do your best. If you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, help get the truth out. We have the internet. We have the means to do it, and we can go to these protests. We can go to these protests. We can bring our signs with us, which we're going to do this summer at the Assembly. Shunned but not forgotten. This is a real thing, being shunned in Canada and all over the world. In Norway, it's a real thing, being shunned. Jehovah's Witnesses have candy-coated this whole thing. They're letting the world think that they're like a normal religion, but they're not. This religion is dictatorship. It's a cult, and it will shun you if you don't follow its ways. So that's what we've experienced. That's all I have for you today. This is not a time to give up, because before the truth or before results come, it sometimes takes a few failures. This wasn't a failure. This was a whole pile of Jehovah's Witnesses lying in court using strategic theocratic warfare, which we've all identified as something they do. So this is yet to come out. More and more is coming out. So keep in tune with us, folks. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you would like to get one of these snazzy shirts, you can get it right off of our website, right off of the YouTube site here. There's a store on these YouTube sites, and you can get all kinds of cool things like Fixing My Faith mug, with our slogan, "Live Your Life with Love." So these are some of the ways you can support us as creators. You can mostly support us by watching our videos. And when you hit subscribe, if you haven't yet subscribed, it helps push the video. YouTube is just their algorithms, and it's all based on that. And unfortunately, we're in an audience where there's a lot of ex-JWs that are afraid to subscribe. Maybe some of them are still going to the meetings. They don't want these subscriptions just automatically Fixing My Faith showing up on their YouTube channel. So they may not subscribe, but they may silently watch a few videos. Well, maybe it's now 2025. Maybe now is the time to come out of the box and openly subscribe. Maybe that's the start of it. Subscribing and stand up for what we're standing up for. We're shunned, but we're not forgotten. And there's an xjwfriends.com website you can go on to. You meet up with Joe and Fran. There's meetups all over the USA. We'll do meetups here in our local area. So let us know. Send us your email, and you can do that. Email us your story, mail@xjw.tv. And if you have a story that you want us to tell, we would certainly take a look at it, and we'd be happy to tell it. So folks, until next time, keep living your life with love. That always works. Love means we tell the truth. Love means we don't hold back. Love means we don't have anything to hide. And every time we talk, we're talking truth, just like Mark Twain said. But those that tell lies, be careful, because the web they weave, they will be caught in their own web. It's a tricky web to crawl on, a web of lies. So be careful, Jehovah's Witnesses. Be careful about lying. We talked about this. It's among the most 7 detestable things to Jehovah. So why would we want to be on that list? Why would we want to be lying? Why would we want to stretch the truth? Why would we want to candy coat this in Supreme Courts? Why would we do that? These are the questions we ask, us truth seekers. So thanks again, folks. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.